Hey everyone, welcome back to Collecting Nolan. Today we're going to talk about the Miracle Mets of 1969 and the 1970 season. So let's go ahead and get started. When the Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants left New York after the 1957 season for California, it left many New York baseball fans without a team to root for. New York baseball fans yearning for a National League baseball team ended in 1962 when the New York Metropolitan Baseball Club came to existence with the help of William Shea. Often referred to as the Lovable Losers, the New York Mets originally played in the Polo Grounds and had 40 wins and 120 losses in their inaugural season. In 1964, the team acquired a new home in Shea Stadium and played there until 2008. During their first few years of existence, the Mets, like most expansion teams, were pretty lackluster, acquiring records of 51 wins and 111 losses in 1963, 53 wins and 109 losses in 1964, 50 wins and 112 losses in 1965, 66 wins and 95 losses in 1966, and 61 wins and 101 losses in 1967. However, the tide started to turn in 1968 when the Mets hired Gil Hodges, legendary former first baseman for the Brooklyn Dodgers. In his first year of management, he was able to lead the Mets to a 73-win and 89-loss record. In 1969, the Mets had a starting lineup consisting of Jerry Grote at catcher, Ed Kranepool at first base, Ken Boswell at second base, Wayne Garrett at third base, Bud Harrelson at shortstop, Leon Jones at left field, Tommy Agee in center field, and Ron Swoboda in right field. For pitchers, the Mets had Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman, Gary Gentry, Don Cardwell, and Jim McAndrew. Remember, Nolan was used mostly out of the bullpen in this part of his career. The Mets were a 100-to-1 shot to win the 1969 National League pennant. The Chicago Cubs were the favored team and the Mets' greatest rival. The Mets started the 1969 season off to a slow start, taking until May to be a .500 win team. By August, the team had become 9.5 games behind the Cubs. However, this is when the miracle started. The Mets were able to win 38 games of their last 49, mostly due to their pitching. The late great Tom Seaver went on an absolute tear, winning his last 10 games in the season to finish an impressive 25 wins and 7 losses, earning him a Cy Young Award. September 1969 was an exciting time for the New York Mets. On September 10th, Nolan was given a rare start against the Expos. He pitched a 3-hit, 11-strikeout complete game, put the Mets ahead of the Chicago Cubs for the first time of the season. Although the Mets and Nolan were doing well, Nolan was struggling personally. His mother suffered a stroke, and he wanted to be home to help out the family. Despite family hardship, Nolan persisted in New York. On September 24th, in front of 54,928 fans at Shea Stadium, Gary Gentry pitched a 4-hit shutout against the Cardinals to win the National League East. The New York Mets finally had something to celebrate. As a reward for winning the NL East, the Mets had to face off against the powerful Atlanta Braves, led by hammering Hank Aaron and Orlando Cepeda. First 2 games in Atlanta were won by the Mets. After giving up a home run to Hank Aaron in the first inning and getting into trouble in the third inning, Gil Hodges finally called on Nolan to relieve Gary Gentry. Nolan entered the game with a man on first and third and had to face formidable foes in the likes of Rico Carty, Orlando Cepeda, and Clete Boyer. While already worrying about his control problems, Gil Hodges told him to keep the ball down. Despite his uneasiness, Nolan was able to strike out Rico Carty. He then intentionally walked Orlando Cepeda to load the bases. He was able to retire Boyer on strikes, and Bob Didier, the next batter, popped out to end the inning. Orlando Cepeda got the best of Nolan in the 5th inning when he hit a 2-run home run. However, Nolan was able to regroup and pitch a near-flawless game as the Mets were able to rally and win 7-4 to complete the sweep of the Braves and move on to the World Series, where they would face the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore Orioles were a great fastball hitting team with sluggers Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Boog Powell, and Paul Blair. They also had some really talented pitchers led by future Hall of Famer Jim Palmer. First game was won by the Orioles 4-1. However, the Mets won Game 2 by a score of 2-1. Game 3 could arguably be considered a highlight reel for Tommy Agee. He blasted a home run in the bottom of the first to center field to put the Mets up 1-0. Gary Gentry, the starting pitcher, hit a double in the second inning to drive home Jerry Grote and Bud Harrelson, putting the Mets up 3-0. In the top of the fourth, Tommy Agee would again show his athletic prowess by making a snow cone glove catch in deep left center field off of an Elrod Hendricks drive, saving 2 runs. After going up 4-0, Gentry ran into some trouble in the 7th inning when he walked 3 straight batters. With the bases loaded, Gil Hodges again called on Nolan Ryan. After again telling him to keep the ball down, Nolan had to face Paul Blair. Nolan blew 2 low fastballs past Blair on the first 2 pitches for strikes. However, on the 3rd pitch, Nolan threw a high fastball, and Paul Blair hit a hard right center field. Tommy Agee would again be the hero when he dived headfirst to make an incredible catch. Because of this catch, Ryan escaped the inning unscathed. Nolan was able to get through the 8th as well by getting Frank Robinson to fly out to center field and striking out Boog Powell and Brooks Robinson. Ed Kranepool put the Mets up 5-0 when he hit a home run in the bottom of the 8th inning. In the 9th, Nolan got Elrod Hendricks and Davey Johnson to fly out for the first 2 outs. However, he struggled a bit after that when he walked Mark Bellinger, allowed Clay Dalrymple to single, and walked Don Buford to load the bases for the dangerous Paul Blair. Nolan fired 2 fastballs past Blair for the first 2 strikes. Nolan then caught Blair by surprise when he threw a 12-6 dropping curve for strike 3. The Mets had won the game, and Nolan earned the save. Game 3 would be the only game Nolan pitched in the World Series. The Mets won the Game 4 behind Tom Seaver 2-1, and in Game 5, Jerry Koosman threw a complete game, and the Mets were able to come from behind to win Game 5. The '69 Mets had done the impossible. They had become World Series champions. Nolan ended the 1969 season with a 6-3 record, pitching in a total of 25 games. He started 10 games and had a 3.53 ERA. He pitched a total of 89.1 innings, had 92 strikeouts, and 53 bases on balls. The 1970 season started off well for Nolan when he broke the Mets club record for strikeouts in a single game with 15. However, this record would be short-lived. Tom Seaver would strike out 19 only 4 games later. The 1970 season ended up being a very challenging year for Nolan. He lost his father to lung cancer, which made him contemplate quitting baseball, only to be persuaded to continue on by Ruth. At this time, his reserve responsibilities also increased. With Gil Hodges' strict rotation schedule, Nolan's time between starts would often be 10 to 12 games or even longer. This caused inconsistency in Nolan's control. He finished the season with 7 wins, 11 losses, 125 strikeouts, 97 bases on balls, and a 3.41 ERA. All right, guys. Right now we're going to start talking about the cards and associated things of Nolan's that were available in 1969. And so for the first couple, I don't have them in my collection yet, but they are, of course, on the trading card database, so I just wanted to go through them. This first one is an 8x10 to Nolan Ryan. It's not really a card, of course, but it is in the database, and it's just an 8x10 with his name at the bottom, and it's a blank back. And it has also 29 other Mets players on it for that. So I don't know too much about it. I really haven't seen this out in the wild, but just thought I'd mention it because I guess it does exist. For the second one is a New York Mets picture pack A. I have seen these out in the wild. I don't have it. But there are 16 other cards in this, and this one again has a facsimile signature of Nolan at the bottom. It has a blank back, and these are pretty expensive from what I've seen. They go for graded versions have gone, I think, for a couple of $100. As of late, I haven't seen any up for auction, but they do pop up occasionally, from what I understand. Let's go to the next one. All right, so this is 1969 to 1970 MLB / MLBPA baseball stars photo stamps. These were available both in 1969 and 1970, and from what the trading card database tells me is that these came in sheets of 12 stamps per sheet, 18 sheets for 216 stamps total in 1969. But one of the things is that for the logos, those were airbrushed off of the 1969 photo stamps. And then in 1970, they reissued the same 216 stamps, but then they also added 75 new players. And with those, the logo for the players were not airbrushed. So if you look at Nolan's image here, he has his Mets logo shining through here. So I think he was one of the 75 players that were added in 1970 to go into this set. This also has the back is over here, and it's kind of like any other photo stamp is that they have this back with it says apply glue or paste here, and then the name at the bottom. And I guess this would go into a photo book of some sort. These do come up. I've seen them around. When I've looked for them on eBay, they're not always available, but sometimes they do pop up. For a nice grade copy, I've seen them run for a couple of $100. But I've been looking to add this one to my collection, but I just haven't really put forth the funds, and I haven't found really the right one yet. So always looking around. All right. So that ends it for the ones in 1969 that I do not have. So we'll move on to the ones in 1969 that I do have. Thanks. So for another piece of 1969 Miracle Mets memorabilia, I guess, I have this. It's the New York Mets 1969 official yearbook. And when you open it up, there's a picture of Nolan there. And there's Koosman. Shows you the guys who's all in charge of the Mets. Has a lot of great photos of Gil Hodges all through here. Tom Seaver all through here. Koosman. Let's see. I kind of forgot that I had this. I didn't realize I didn't pay a lot of money for this, but I just thought it was really cool to have it from the Miracle Mets season, and the older pictures of Nolan. I thought it was a really cool thing to have. Let's see if I can find some Nolan in here. There's Tommy Agee up here. Some cool advertisements if you're into that kind of stuff. RC Cola. I don't even think that exists anymore. We got Ron Taylor, Cal Kuntz. Let's see, what else do we got going here? This is great. I remember this now. So with Nolan, here's the team photo. There's Nolan right there, the 1969 New York Mets team picture. That's a great picture. I love it. Yogi Berra. Lots of good color photos in this. Let's see. Another one of Yogi. And forgive me guys, like this is kind of before my time. I was born in 81, so 69 was before my time, so I don't know all these guys. I'm not familiar with how illustrious their careers were. So if you know anything about any of these guys, like I remember my uncle giving me a Ron Swoboda card from, I think it was like a 1967 Topps. He gave me a Ron Swoboda card, but it was like all wrinkled and stuff, but I had it for the longest time. There's a great picture. That's a great picture of Nolan there, and man, him firing a fastball there, love it. Classic Nolan. But just something cool to look through. Here's Bud Harrelson. Let's see, do we get a color photo of Nolan? There it is, look at that. Look at that, guys. That is, wow. I love it. I love the old photos. And then the old Coke photo, old Coke advertisement. Even has Willie Mays over here. Let's see, what else? Are we going to get another photo of Nolan in here? I don't think so. Yogi Berra with the Yoo-Hoo advertisement, pretty cool. Yeah, so that was that. So just thought I'd share that as well. I thought that was a pretty cool piece of memorabilia to have. It's a little stained on the front, but I didn't pay much for it, and I'm more interested about the contents of it, so just thought I'd share. All right, guys, we're going to start talking about the cards that I do have from 1969, and really there's not too many cards from 1969, so the one that is everybody's favorite is the 1969 Topps number 533. This is Nolan Ryan's first solo card. So as you recall, his rookie had Jerry Koosman on it with him. So it says, blessed with blazing speed, Nolan unleashed. Is that like another? I never noticed that before. Nolan unleashed his fastball. I guess he leases his fastball up instead of unleashed. His fastball at Greenville in 1966 and paced the Western Carolina League with 17 wins and 272 strikeouts. He was named the circuit's top pitcher. So, wow. I just never, unless unleashed is a different way of saying something like that, but I don't think that's the proper word that they're looking for. I think unleashed is what they wanted. So, interesting. I never really noticed that before, so cool card. But anyway, so you might ask, well, why doesn't Nolan have a Topps, the trophy on his card? And number one, I mean, Nolan had an okay first year in 1968. He did okay, but he was also like a reliever for most of his early career. So that rookie, that trophy is pretty much limited to the best position, the best players in that position. So, like if you recall from Tom Seaver's 1968 card, his does have that Topps rookie trophy on there because he was a very good pitcher at that time. Here, Nolan was still pretty much an unknown entity. They really didn't know what they had in him, and he had a lot of control problems. So, he probably wasn't the best in his position, but luckily he didn't quit, and luckily he continued on for 27 years. So, no Topps rookie trophy for Nolan, but this is still a great card, and this card is like really taken off as far as value wise. Like I picked this up, I don't know, I picked this up maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and at that time I think it paid like $320 for this, but now it's like it goes for way more than that. So I like, it's not the only reason why I like this card, but you know, it's pretty good when you're spending, I don't want to say a lot of money on a card, because you know, $320 is not a lot of money, but to spend on a baseball card, $320 is a lot of money, if you know what I'm saying, especially if you have a family and all that stuff, you know, so always budget wisely and all that stuff. But it's always good to see that when you've made a smart investment, and I think this was one of my smarter investments. So I'm going to tack that up in the win column. So this is the 1969 Topps Nolan Ryan. So that was it for this, for the 69 cards that I have. All right, now going into 1970, there's a couple more cards in 1970 than what there were in 1969 for Nolan. And I have quite a few, not quite a few, I have a couple of the 1970s, but I don't have any of the Ep3s, that came available that year. So this one is the NLCS Game 3 Ryan Saves the Day card. There's a, you know, the Topps version looks exactly like this, except for, again, the backs are a little bit different. You can see down here that it says printed in Canada, and the back might be lighter, slightly more light than the Topps, I think. We'll take a look at it. I might just keep this up so we can look at it at the same time. But yeah, so Peachy offered the same cards as Topps did, because they were kind of had a partnership with them. The only thing that they didn't, this is the other Peachy one. It says we're number one with Nolan on it. And it's numbered 198, basically the same kind of format as the other one, printed in Canada on the back is the way to tell it. So Peachy, plus the back looks slightly different. But they didn't have Nolan's base card in Peachy that I know of. And I think that's probably because Nolan's base card was a high series. It was series number 7. And so Peachy probably didn't get a copy of it. I'm not sure exactly how it works, whether they distribute like the printing plates to Peachy or whatever, but it just does not exist. So that's the second 1970 card that I don't have. And then this one, I am not 100% sure. I've never seen this, and it is it's a very rare card. And it's called the Topps Test Cloth Stickers, and there's only one Nolan Ryan in the set, and that's the one from the one that says Ryan Saves the Day. So, you know, TCDB says there's 27 cards in this set, but PSA, from what I understand, from what I read, says there's like only 15 of them. And these are extremely rare. They're one of the rarest of the Topps cloth sticker test issues. So we'll talk a little bit about some other cloth test issues, like the 1977 Topps cloth has. There's a cloth card in 1977 that has Nolan Ryan, has an angel on it, that we'll talk about later. But from what I understand, there could be 3 or less of these in existence. So it's just made up of a fine cloth with a blank back. I guess you could, I don't know. I can't find a lot of information on these. So, you know, and these were well before my time. You know, I don't recall ever running into any cloth stickers. And or cloth cards, I don't understand the purpose, I guess, or the the reason why you'd print it on cloth. I guess it was just another way of shown, of Topps selling something. So I don't really understand why they would use cloth, but it's still interesting. So, like I said, these are blank back. They're made of cloth. So there was one of these that sold back in 2018 for over $13,500. So I'm putting this on the list as one of those that I will never have in my collection, unless I get lucky someday. I don't know, but I've never seen this before, and I don't plan on ever seeing it really. So the one that sold was it was the only example known in both the PSA and SGC census reports at the time, I guess, in 2018. So, like I said, extremely rare. No one really knows how many of these cards exist, but I guess they're favoring it to be 3 or fewer for each of the cards. With these, most of the cards have the same photo on it as the Topps card, but there are 3 cards that don't, and I don't remember who they are, but they're not Nolan Ryan. So this is the only Nolan in the set, and it's the exact same as the Topps card. So there's that. So I'm going to chalk this one up as to one that I'll never see, but who the heck knows? Maybe someday, just never know. All right, so the next one and the final one is another. This one, I mean, it's kind of rare, but it's definitely not as rare as the previous card, and this is the 1970 Transagram. So Transagram basically was kind of like, it was a toy company. It was founded in 1915 by Charles Raisin, and it was first called the Friction Transfer Pattern Company. And that just transferred images of things using friction. I don't know too much about it, but sounds kind of cool, I guess, for 1915. It became Transagram in 1970, and they made toys, games, playroom furniture, craft sets, and sports sets. So, if you can imagine, if you guys are from my era, you know what starting lineup figures look like, and so starting lineup figures came in a box. Actually, they came in like a blister pack, so that's not true. Some of them did. Like I had one of Nolan where it had like a headlines of his newspaper. It had like a newspaper frame, like with a plastic reprint of a newspaper talking about, I think, his 7th no-hitter or something like that. And then it had like this black platform, and it would have Nolan in his wind-up, in his leg kick, pictured there. So Transagram was kind of like the starting lineup of the 1970s, and basically with Nolan's, his came in a panel of 3 players. It was him on the end with Tug McGraw and Cleon Jones on the other end. So it was like a panel of 3 across. So Nolan Ryan, Tug McGraw, and Cleon Jones. And that panel was found on the side of the box. And the box had the players in it, the player statues in it. And then also on another side, there was like a smaller version of this picture that you're seeing here. And that was on the intact box. So, I've seen, right now you can buy the boxes on eBay. As of late, I've been seeing them pop up. I think one that sold for $1,800, an intact box with Nolan Ryan on it. So they're not the rarest thing, but they're also not common either. So especially intact boxes, they're hard to come by, and in good shape, they're like really expensive. And then, so a lot of times you can cut these out, and PSA does grade these. I've seen a few graded examples, but it does have like the perforated edges for people to cut them out if they wanted to. So, and since it's on the side of a cardboard box, the back is blank. But I do not have this one. I've been looking for them. I think it's a pretty awesome card, actually. It has them was, it's just a young Nolan there, and it's not your run of the mill tops that you're always seeing around. So I just like it for that aspect. I kind of like the unique oddball cards there. So that's that. So let's start with the first one, which is 1970 Topps World Champion Mets card. It's the number 1 card in the set. So it has Nolan's name on there. Does it? Actually does not have Nolan on here, so I'm mistaken, and that's probably why I didn't see it on the TCDB checklist for Nolan. So that's an interesting card, but anyway, we'll still show it because he was on the World Championship team. So I have his card, and I guess he's not on the back, so I don't know if this technically counts, but I have it. And I don't know how good this camera is going to zoom in there, but if you pause, you can see that Nolan's not on the back there that I can tell. So interesting. But that's team records. So he wasn't setting any team records. So that might not mean anything. It just meant that he was not setting any team records in 1969. So that's okay. Moving on is the Nolan Ryan Saves the Day card, number 197. So my card, it's I don't know, it's pretty beat up. It's got definitely some corner issues. It's got some marks on it. There's a mark right above the A in saves, and it has a crease. So this is a very poor example of this card, but at the same time, this is basically what I think like typical 1970 cards look like. If you were a kid back in the 70s, I doubt that you were saving these in penny sleeves, and they probably didn't even have top loaders back then, so it was not like you thought these were going to be worth a ton of money. So these got beat up just like every other toy that you had. So I just consider myself lucky to own this card. If I ever come across a better one that's reasonably priced, then I'll pick it up. But I was just about wanting to have this card represented in my collection, so I picked this up, I think, relatively cheap, probably like $4 or something like that. So I thought that was worth it. But a cool card nonetheless. That commemorates Nolan's save in Game 3. So cool. Okay. And then the next card is the weird number 1 card. The Mets celebrate after they win the World Series. And in that photo, you got Nolan, that's second from the right. And I'm not sure who the other guys are. So if anyone can tell me that, I am not 100% sure who the other guys are. But this is number 198. And playoff statistics, it looks like Nolan had 1 game. No, he had 4 at-bats. Wait. Is this what happened? Wow. Okay. So if I'm reading this card right, Nolan is under, he's second from the bottom when it comes to right next to my thumb. There's Nolan Ryan. It says he was in 1 game. He had 4 at-bats. He had 2 hits. So he batted .500 in the playoffs. Now, who says Nolan can't hit? I mean, come on, guys. And did he have an RBI?
No RBIs, but he batted 500 in the playoffs. So hey, that's pretty great. And then down here captures his pitching for the playoffs, where he had 7 innings pitched. He allowed 8 hits, 2 home runs, 5 earned runs, and 3 bases on balls, and only 2 strikeouts in that game. Wait a second, that was Tom Seaver. That's not Nolan Ryan. Hold on, I'm sorry. This is what happens when you're getting old. So he had 3 hits. He left 1 home run, 2 earned runs, and he had 7 strikeouts for a 2.57 ERA. And then Tom Seaver actually was the other guy that had a 6.43 ERA. And I got some markings on the back next to Tom Seaver's stuff, so it looks like this card is also not in the hottest of shape, but definitely in better shape than the other one that I have. So it's a cool card. I like him. I like these 70s cards. And then finally, this is Nolan's base card, the 1970, and it's number 712. So the 1970 Topps set had 720 cards in it, which was the largest set in Topps history up to that point. And this one, I think, was released, I think, in 7 series or 8 series. I'm not sure. But Nolan's was in the 7th series. So his is a high card. And so, they're slightly more rare than the other cards that are printed lower because they were released at a later date in the year. And this was also the first year the Topps increased the prices of wax packs. They doubled the price. So you couldn't get a Topps wax pack unless you were willing to part with 10 cents. So before this time, before 1970, Topps wax packs were always sold for 5 cents. So there was probably a lot of kerfluffle going on when they raised the prices, doubling what they were. I mean, you guys now, I mean, if you buy like modern cards now, it's like, oh yeah, Topps increased the price of a hobby box up to $300 or whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous how much modern day cards cost now. So 10 cents at this time was kind of, 10 cents back in 1970 was still, was probably equivalent to like $1 now or something like that. But it's not anywhere close to what we got going on in the current world of baseball cards. But I don't know if you can see this, so I'll move it up closer. But this card has a slight crease going right through the Mets. But it's off center. But this was again one of my first cards that I bought. One of his earlier cards, the first earlier of his cards that I bought. So, and I really didn't see that, I think, when I bought it off of eBay. So slightly disappointed when I saw it, but at the same time, it's a cool card. I've been thinking about sending this one to get it signed to the Nolan Ryan Foundation, actually, because it is, I don't know, I'm really hesitant on sending my cards through the mail. I just want to get them back, and that's like my main scare, and I think that's a lot of people's main fears, is shipping their cards and losing them or having someone steal them. So, but if I were able to get his signature on this, I think one would look awesome. That's the bottom line. 2, it would just be another autograph that I add to my collection of his. So, and number 3, it would add more value to this card. So you can get higher grades of this card are crazy expensive. I think I saw 9 for like a couple $1,000, $3,000, something like that. And they're hard to come by, really, I think. So right now I just have a raw copy, but still a great copy. Let's see if there's anything weird on the back of this one. Let's see. Nolan, incredible total of 313 strikeouts in 205 innings. 1966 led West Carolina's leap in wins and Ks. Nothing too crazy. Nolan once fanned 21 batters in 10 innings and lost. It probably wouldn't be the last time that happened either. So, cool card. All right, so I'm going to set up this last thing that I want to show you guys because it's awesome. So I'll be right back. All right, guys, here's the final two things that I want to show you, but they're tightly related to each other. So I was surfing eBay one day looking for Nolan stuff, and I came across this thing that I've never seen before. And it was curious because it's a newspaper, and it is from Sunday, October 5th, 1969. And like I said, I'd never seen it before. So let me just talk a little bit about what this is. So this is from the New York Daily News. And basically, to celebrate the Mets World Series victory, the New York Daily News put a photo of like a reproduction of a charcoal drawing in the newspaper every day for, I guess, there was 20 of them, so there, I guess, 20 days. But the subjects include Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, Tommy Agee, Ron Swoboda, Jerry Grote, Frank McGraw, Art Shamsky, Ken Boswell, Jerry Koosman, Gary Gentry, Darrell Harrelson, Wayne Garrett, Ron Taylor, Don Clendenin, Al Weiss, Don Cardwell, Cleon Jones, Ed Kranepool, Jim McAndrew, and Gil Hodges. So, and I guess the original was 9x12, and they were charcoal drawings that were originally by Bruce Stark. And I got this information off of Golden Auctions because they had some information about it, because I guess they had a set of these available. And then there was also a slightly smaller version that was available for premium news subscribers in the late 1980s. So this one's from the 1969 newspaper, and I thought this was very cool. So, and it was like, it wasn't expensive, so I was like, wow, that's it's unique. So, and it's in the art thing, so I like that thing. So I'm just going to read at the bottom here because it's hard to say, but it says, Nolan is the hardest thrower among hard-throwing Mets pitchers. Injuries and service commitments prevented him from winning more than 6 games this year, but his promise showed with a better than a strikeout per inning ratio. Selected in the 5th round of the 1965 free agent draft, Nolan won 17 games the following year for Greenville. That year he had 303 Ks in 205 innings for Greenville. Williamsport and Mets. Ryan set a Met record by fanning 14 in one game versus the Reds last May. His fastball has been dubbed Ryan's Express. A 6'2", 195-pound right-hander, the 22-year-old lives in Alvin, Texas. So, so this is I just thought it was a cool piece. So hold on one second, and I'll pull up the next thing that's closely related. All right, so here is the second thing, and you're probably saying, well, that looks very familiar, but I think this is, again, I saw this and I was like, wow, I already have the newspaper thing, so I figured I have to have that because that's just that's the original. I think it's a lithograph or a copy of the original. But it is signed by Nolan, and so if I put them side by side, they're exactly the same. So I just this is just one of my favorite things. You know, I love like these oddball things that not a lot of people have or have seen. So, you know, to me, this is one of those special items, you know, that I've come across, and you know, I don't remember how much I paid for it. I mean, it wasn't that expensive, but it probably wasn't that cheap either. So, but it doesn't matter. Like I just, you know, it's one of those things where you see it and it's like, oh, I should probably get that. So, um, I just like it so much. But guys, that's all I really have for you today. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, please, you know, like, and you know, feel free to make comments, guys, on, you know, if you have any, you know, if you have any suggestions on how to make the channel better, or you know, what was your favorite piece today, what was your favorite card, that would be great too. Or you know, if you just want to, you know, talk about Nolan cards or cards in general, you know, feel free to comment below. If you really want, please subscribe. So I'll see you at the next one. Take care, guys.